Something to only get into.
Except for the zoo, I learned for that.
But that's something new tonight. Something
It's great.
Trusting you.
Yeah.
I trust you. Trust you with my neshama.
We did it at my house. Let's go.
What's that beautiful? Thank you. There are enough. All right, we'll say good evening, a good Erev Shabbos, a schus Baruch Hashem to be together. Steve, who are our sponsors?
Because of threats, we have 4 sponsors.
Because of threats,
Zevi Daniel, in honor of Howie and me, for keeping us sated materially so our souls can be open to the spiritual nourishment from the Rav.
You got to repeat it. I can hear you.
Everybody's talking.
We're still singing.
All right. Zevi Daniel, in honor of Howie and Steve, for keeping us sated materially so our souls can be open to the spiritual nourishment from our Rav. Josh Friedman, for a complete refuah for Dov Sadia Lady Ben Esther, in memory of Yisro Yehuda ben Harav Chaim Rafal, and for a safe return for the hostages in the Chiyalim. Chaim Ravenstein for refuah Shlema for Anonymous, and Ellie Brum for the safe return of the hostages.
Shkoya. Shkoya to will say. A good Erev Shabbos, Schos Baruch Hashem, to be able to learn together. As I mentioned last week already we started on some of the inyanim of the Haggadah for the Piacezna, and tonight, Piacezna Hashem, we're going to continue a little bit as well. And I wanna draw your attention. We're going to do one piece today. Well, we're going to do two pieces from the Piacezna, and that we'll bring together. And as I quoted to you yesterday, we're learning out of this beautiful Haggadah called the Haggadah's Piacezna. The Rebbe didn't write the Perusham Haggadah, but again, someone came along and really was malaki, really just collected. Probably there are more sheets over here if anyone needs, and really just collected various teachings of the Piacezna. I'll tell you, I'll say, as I go through this, it's incredible to see how much of what's quoted over here is from B'nai Machshava Tova. So really very special and really very beautiful, Baruch Hashem. So you'll see some of it, and I think it's going to be familiar with us. So tonight, we're going to focus on the side of the page that begins with V'hisha Amda. V'hisha Amda. So we're going to focus tonight, Eretz Hashem, on this particular passage in the Haggadah. And remember, we say every year, V'hisha Amda Lavosinu V'lanu. And it is this, V'hi, and it is this that has stood for us and our forefathers. Shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechalosenu. It has not been only one enemy which has risen against us to destroy us. Ela shebechol dar vadar omdim aleinu lechalosenu. In every generation, someone arises to try to destroy us. VaHaKadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes ahead and saves us from their hands. And I think I will say, we read this particular passage every single year. And I think for many of us, for the first time in our lifetime, so this particular passage takes on and resonates with such an incredible profundity, especially given the times that we are living in. This ultimate affirmation that anti-Semitism, hatred, the desire of those to exterminate us and to obliterate us, this is not a new thing. This is not a new thing. This has been the dynamic of the Jew from the beginning of time, right? When again, already Paro wanted to exterminate us in Egypt. And the truth is, in Avram Avinu, Avimelech wanted to do away with him, and Bara wanted to do away with him. You can go through the list. And I will say, but at the end of the day, VaHaKadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. The Rebbe Shalom always saves us. And I will say, this is an incredibly important yesod. We often straddle this incredibly important line. On one hand, we are obligated to put in ishtadlus, obligated to put in effort. So, for example, just even like focusing on Eretz Yisrael now, we're obligated to engage in advocacy in all different ways. I will say, but I'll tell you, I just found it so like, on one hand, sad, depressing, unnerving, rattling, yet inspiring. So I had the schus yesterday to participate in this delegation to the White House as part of the OU to deliver the 180,000 letters, which, it was a pretty big deal from our community to get, and it was over, by the time we got there, it was over 200,000 letters. Now, it's a lot, and it was 3 days. Remember, again, this whole thing started last Thursday, and Shabbos, nobody's signing letters. I hope not, unless it's our Gentile friends. They can sign letters. So you think about that type of mass mobilization, it's incredible. And I will say, and then, you leave an event like that, and people are like, yeah, we're with you. Like, yes, this is going to, clearly, again, the Jewish community has spoken. It's incredible. And I will say, we just talked about before, you see what happened in the news today. That the president for the first time seems like explicitly expressed that aid is going to become conditional if Israel does not do what he wants. You think to yourself, we're just there yesterday, out in force, representing. Rabbi Howard made such a beautiful comment. He said, we're not here as the mouthpiece of American Jewry. American Jewry has spoken on its own, right? If people sign those letters, you don't need to be the mouthpiece. I will say, it's incredible. So you show up, you're there, and again, the chief of staff, the assistant chief of staff, yes, Israel's our friend. And then again, you look at this. And I will say, one of the points that we tried to make over and over and over was that, especially coming from the White House, whatever is said in the White House sends a ripple effect in this country and in the world. And if American leadership is ambiguous and they don't have moral clarity, that's where anti-Semitism on campuses come from. And that's where the world becomes ambiguous as well. And then you leave and you feel good like you did something for Klal Yisrael, and then you see like this ridiculous statement, ridiculous response today. And it reminds us of this paragraph, that at the end of the day, it has never been U.S. presidents that have saved us. And it has never been congressmen or representatives or senators or anything else. Those people are tools. I don't mean that like in the derogatory sense. It's not. I didn't mean it that way. I meant it that they're utensils. No, I'm not going to. They are utensils. They're chomer biyad hayotzer. They're clay. They're clay in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They don't decide our fate. They don't decide our future. They're not the decision makers for the continuity of Klal Yisrael. No one is. There's only one entity in this world that is the sole determinator of Klal Yisrael's existential destiny, and that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is it. So again, we have to put in our effort, and we have to work all of these different channels and do all of these different things, but we should never become disheartened. Sometimes, like, on one hand, you want to check the news, but you don't want to check the news, right? You want to check the news because you want to be informed. But the truth is, like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I recently, usually when I'm drinking my first cup of coffee in the morning, like before I come to shul, I usually just take like a quick scroll of the headlines. And the truth is, I've stopped doing it now. Because the truth is, from the time that I wake up through Shachris, that's my like naive time of the day. The only thing I know what's happening is what's happening in Bava Metzia. If it's not in Bava Metzia, I don't know what's going on. And I will say, the truth is, like, it's helpful, because otherwise everything is so heavy, and everything is so dark, and everything is so bleak, and everything is so difficult, right? And you see, sometimes it's just overwhelming. And the fact that there are still 134 of our brothers and sisters languishing. Again, I will say, it was a tragedy what happened to the 7 aid workers in Gaza. From that, what is it called? World's Kitchen? World's Kitchen. It's a tragedy. It's always a tragedy when innocent people die. Just like it's a tragedy when innocent civilians in Gaza. It's a tragedy when innocent people die. But how come the world forgets about us? 181 days into this. And our hostages, right? Our innocents, they're not even buried on a back page. They don't appear anywhere. Yeah, Israel takes responsibility and laments the loss of innocent life. When it comes to Jewish lives, to be honest, Jewish lives don't matter to anyone. They don't matter to anyone, and it's a hard pill to swallow. But I will say, the sooner we swallow it and get it down, the easier it is to actually move forward in life and actually make a difference. Because then we realize, the Yeshua, we have to work all of the channels that are at our disposal, but that is not where the Yeshua is going to come from. Just look at the decision makers and look at the people who hold and wield all of this power and are absolutely clueless, bordering on just clueless, right, of what to do with that power. And what you could affect with that power, and the change you could. I would say, can you imagine if world leaders understood the power they had now? Do you know what the power is? I was saying, this is a pivotal moment in mankind's history where good could actually win over evil. That's now. If the world banded together and the world literally saw who's good and who's evil, and they said, we are standing on the side of good, it would turn the tide in the trajectory of humanity. But humanity never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity. So instead, there's moral ambiguity. Instead, there's equivocation. But we come to the Hishamda. The Hishamda says, okay, don't get worked up. This is not a new story. This is the same story, just different players. So I want to share with you a beautiful idea. The one part that is somewhat ambiguous about this particular section is, what is the Vihi? What is the Vihi? Vihi Sha'amda. And this thing, it, that has stood for our forefathers and us. So I will say, what's the it? What's the it? So what would you say? What's a simple pshat? What's the it? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the truth is, that's true, but that's a strange way to refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'hi sha'amda. First of all, again, I will say, the Rebbe Shalom sometimes is referred to in the feminine. There's, the Zohar brings down, there's the duchra and the nukva. There is the male qualities of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, and the female qualities of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But in the Haggadah, generally, especially when dealing about redemption, God is usually referred to in the male capacity and not in the female. So what is vihi? And there's a number of different interpretations about this. One of my other favorite Haggadahs is this Haggadah called the Haggadah is Beis Avram, Beis Aaron. It was written by, the author is Rav Avram Aaron Friedman, who was the Rav of Chop. Chop was a town in Hungary. And it's incredible, just as an aside, you could see in the beginning of the Haggadah, they actually have like the manuscripts. And the way he wrote it was, he wrote the Haggadah, and he wrote his commentaries on the Haggadah. But the way he has it, I don't know what you call it, like a supra commentary, when you have a commentary and then a commentary on the commentary. Like what the Mishnah Berurah did, right? There's the Mishnah Berurah, and then there's the Be'er Halacha, right? So he did this also. He wrote the Perush on the Haggadah, and then a Perush on the Perush of the Haggadah. So really, one of my favorite Haggadahs, he has a whole piece over about what Vihi is. But I want to show you the Piacezna. I want to show you the Piacezna first, and then if we have time, we'll go back to other ideas. So we'll say, look what he writes over here. Vinodas, it's in the section, the second part of the page. So listen to this. Vinodas shelas hasfar makidoshim. Everyone knows the famous kasha. What's the famous kasha? Ma vihi. What is vihi? What is vihi? Right? And it. What is the it? Umay koi tevas vihi sha'amdalanu. Sorry, va'alma koi tevas vihi sha'amdalanu. Again, what is it that's, what we're saying in this section is there is something that has like stood for us, something that has been steadfast for us. What is the thing? What is the vihi? So we'll say, so what's the pashut pshat? So pashut pshat is that it's explained later on that HaKadosh Baruch Hu ultimately saves us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu always saves us. Now listen to this. So we'll say, says the Piacezna, Lo bilvad terem sha'anu nisunim biyadam shal sonenu, rak gam kishekvar anu biyadayim. So I will say, the Piacezna points out over here, and just to point out, this is from Ish Kodesh. So remember again, Ish Kodesh are the drashas that the Piacezna gave in the Warsaw Ghetto. So just understand something, I will say. You know, when the Piacezna is giving a drasha on Pesach about Vihi Sha'amda, and they're reading this section, and they're reading, Shalo Echad Bilvad Amad Alinu L'Chalosenu. We haven't just faced one enemy historically. Rather, in every generation, Omdim Alinu L'Chalosenu. They stand up to destroy us. The Piacezna is living it. The Piacezna is living it. He's literally living through that dynamic. So he says something amazing. He says there are two aspects to the redemptive power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Two aspects to it. One is Terem Sha'anu Nusunim Biyadam Shal Sonenu. So one element is HaKadosh Baruch Hu proactively saves us. Right? We're on the cusp of being in danger, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu extricates us from that danger. A proactive salvation. I will say, you know, what's the interesting part about the proactive salvations in life? What's the interesting part of them? Sometimes you're not even aware of them. And I will say, you know, you ever have like one of those situations when you're driving and you almost get into like a really serious accident? So what's going through your mind after you get into almost get into a really serious accident? What's going through your mind? Drive better. Okay, so right, true. Sometimes that could be the musar. Good. I'm sorry. Thank God I didn't get into an accident. I will say, but what you also realize is like how profoundly vulnerable you are. Right? We don't think about this, but like you could be the best driver in the world, but if the person next to you is not a good driver, right? So you're done. So you realize, like, when you have one of those mishaps, whatever, you doze off or something else happens, you realize, like, my gosh, like, HaKadosh Baruch Hu really watched out for me. But it's not just now. It's how many times every single day am I in harm's way, and the Ribono Shel Olam saves me, and I don't even know about it. This, I will say, is the pshat we say in Modim. We thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for Al Nisecha Shebecha Yomimanu. Thank you for the miracles that you give me every single day. I don't know, but I've had days where, like, I don't know, I didn't see any miraculous activity today. I don't know, it's been, you know, I walked by the puddles, I was waiting for them to split. You know, nothing occurred. So I don't know, days where, like, everything just seems ordinary. So the Stapler explains so beautifully, it means every single day there are nisim and niflos. Every day there are dramatic miracles all around us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saving us in ways that we don't even know, but we're just never cognizant of it. So the Piacezna says one element of salvation is what we'll call proactive salvation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu prevents us from encountering harm. HaKadosh Baruch Hu prevents us from suffering. He saves us, right? As things are heating up, He pulls it back. He says, Rak gam shekvar anu biyadam. There's another type of salvation, Abosai. The other type of salvation is when we are already in trouble. We're already in trouble. In other words, I'm already suffering. I'm already having difficulty. I'm already overwhelmed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzil osanu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saves us. So isn't this incredible? Two elements of salvation. Proactive salvation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saves me before I get into trouble. And then ultimately, again, I guess what we'd call like reactive salvation. I'm in trouble, I'm suffering, I'm in difficult circumstances, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, in the Piacezna writes, he says, V'hi sha'amda lanu. I will say the Piacezna says that's the V'hi. What's the mindset, I will say? What's the mindset that has preserved, or not even the mindset, but like what's the theology? What's the hashkafa that has saved us through the years? What is the pillar of our hashkafa ultimately at the end of the day that has held us strong? What's the V'hi sha'amda? The Piacezna posits is no matter how bad things look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will always come through. That's the message. That's the V'hi. The V'hi sha'amda is not the proactive salvation. The V'hi sha'amda is the reactive salvation. That even when I'm in trouble and things look so terribly bleak, V'hi sha'amda lavosenu v'lanu. The thing that has kept us going throughout all of the years is no matter how terrible things look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu always comes through. This, by the way, is a theme throughout Chassidus. Right? Rabbi Nachman calls this Ein Shum Yeyosh Ba'olam Klal. There's no such thing as Yeyosh. There's no such thing as giving up hope. But that's the V'hi. So I will say, if somebody asks you, what is the most important hashkafic nugget? Right? What is the most important hashkafic pillar that holds up the entirety of Yiddishkeit? You say, oh, my Rebbe told me, Piacezna told me, Eish Kodesh, Pesach, Tafshin Aleph, the year 1940, where the Rebbe said, V'hi sha'amda lavosenu, the most important thing, theological pillar, that has kept us afloat all of these years, is that no matter how bad things are, HaKadosh Baruch Hu always has our back. The Yeshua Krova Lavo. Salvation is approaching. And the Rebbe goes on, he says, Ubazeh. This is so beautiful. He says, Ubazeh. And I will say, understand just the context. Understand the context. This is Pesach, 1940 in the Warsaw Ghetto. So understand who he's talking to. Understand, we'll say, by Pesach, 1940 in the ghetto, there are no children in the ghetto anymore. There are no children. You know what that means? I've mentioned this before. I remember, let's say, when we came back into the shul after COVID, so I don't know why this triggered. One of the most beautiful things was hearing kids screaming in shul. Because I think after everything went quiet, that was the most incredible, for 5 minutes and then it was right? That was the most incredible sound of vitality. So I'll say, imagine you're in a community and there's no children in your community. There's no children in the Warsaw Ghetto. There's no children. So understand who the kehila is. It's a kehila of bereaved parents. It's a kehila of where every single person there has suffered some form of devastating loss. And the Piacezna is like Chevra. V'hi sha'amda lavosenu v'lanu. We got to hold on to the one thing that has kept us afloat throughout the millennia. And that's the knowledge that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to forsake us. He's not going to leave us. He's got our back even when we are in the thick of these catastrophic circumstances. Look what he writes. Ubazeh tzrichem lechazek es tikvasenu. And we have to strengthen our emunah. We have to strengthen. It really means we have to strengthen our sense of optimism and hope. Shafilu kishenid malanu shekvar anu biyadam chas v'chalila gam kin yasilanu. That even when we think that we have fallen into the hands of our enemies and there is no more hope, even then, there is always room for hope. Even then, the Jew always has to hold on to his optimism. O defshar, ki akol kol Yaakov v'adai midei Esav. Furthermore, the Piacezna says, he says something amazing. Actually, we'll say we'll focus on this over here. He skipped actually to the left-hand column. He says aval v'hi shamda. It's like if you look in the left-hand column, the first short line there. Aval v'hi shamda shakadosh baruch hu matzilem yadam gam bizman she'edei Esav sholtos. See, I will say what the Piacezna now is here is making an incredible deal. In Parshas Toldos, where, remember again, Yaakov comes to go ahead and get the bracha from his father, from Yitzchak. So Yaakov dresses up, right? There's the whole ruse. And what happens? Yitzchak is suspicious. And what does Yitzchak say? Hakol kol Yaakov. The voice is the voice of Yaakov. V'hayedayim yedei Esav. But the hands are the hands of Esav. The Piacezna says, V'hakadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. Yado shel Esav. V'hayedayim yedei Esav. Even when we are literally in the hands of our enemies, even when literally we are in the clutches of our enemies, and it looks like everything is bleak, and it looks like everything is doomed, even then, when we are in the Yadayim, in the hands, even then, HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. Even when Esav has his hands around us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu still saves us. He goes on, he says, Gam yidei she'Esav yidei Esav sholtos, kedei shmaiti yekol Yaakov etzavsei bate knesios or bate midrasha. So we'll say, so this is really just an incredible piece. Right? What is the vihi? What is the vihi? The vihi ultimately is the understanding that even when the adayim of Esav are around us, even when we are actively suffering, even when things are objectively compromised and life is difficult, even then, we operate with the belief that HaKadosh Baruch Hu always comes through. Now, you may think to yourself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu always comes through. The Piacezna was killed. It's a nice message. So we'll say, understand what it means for a Jew to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes through. We'll say, Klal Yisrael is an entity that is greater than the sum of its parts. And our power and our abilities go far beyond the duration of our personal lives. So when we speak about the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu always comes through, it doesn't mean that people don't die. And it doesn't mean that individuals don't suffer. And it doesn't mean that Chas v'Shalom individuals don't face inescapable realities. But it means is that Kadosh Baruch Hu always ensures the eternality of the klal, and the sacrifices of the individuals are always impactful and meaningful. That's the Vihi Sha'adam. And the Piacezna says that is the most important yesod to inculcate within ourselves. I know it's heavy. I know that it's heavy. I will say, but sometimes, I think because there are so many heavy things happening all around us, sometimes when you're exposed to, a sustained heaviness, you just want something light. And I will say, that's not what mature and responsible adults do. When life is heavy for a yid, you know what you do? You lean into it. This is it. Chavra, this is life now. Our people are suffering. Our nation's at war. Our land is at war. Our hostages are languishing. That's it. This is our life. And it doesn't mean that there's not room, of course, for simcha. There's always simcha. And to celebrate simchas and to be besimcha. But I will say, but it's important. I think sometimes, somebody said this to me last Shabbos. They said, it was like one of those interesting compliment, non-compliment things, and it went something like this. It was a really beautiful drasha, but I think it's time to lighten things up a little bit. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I missed the memo. I missed the memo. So what happened? The hostages came home, right? The soldiers are all okay. Everybody's good. It's time to lighten things up. Then he said it was too long also. But all right, that was makabel. That I can't argue with. I say, this is our avoda. We're not on the physical front lines, but we absolutely are on the spiritual front lines. So what's we got to roll up our sleeves. We have to roll up our sleeves. This is not a time to kind of kick back and relax. I'll tell you the truth. I was really hoping. I don't know if maybe it'll happen or not. I was hoping that the yeshivas would cancel Ben Azmanim. I'll say, the IDF canceled all home leave for combat soldiers today. No one is going home. They canceled all home leave for active duty soldiers today. So why do Bachrim have Ben Azmanim? I don't understand. If everybody's a soldier, and everybody is a soldier, so what? So I'll say, I think it's like a shtickle disconnect. There's a shtickle disconnect. between the sense of achrayus that all of us have to have. And again, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean be all intense all the time. There's a time to relax, and there's a time for this, and even the soldiers do get time. Like, I'll say, but like, I think like, I feel a little bit that sometimes we're getting like a little bit of war fatigue. And kind of like, we don't have that luxury. Now is the time to lean into it even more. There's only one source of salvation in this world. One source. And that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything else we do, we have to put in our hishtadlus. Just like you can't say HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to save us. You have to have an army. And you have to have brave soldiers who are willing to be Moser Nefesh. And you have to do your advocacy. But V'hi Sha'amda, the thing that has stood fast for us all of these years, at the end of the day, is the Ribon Shalom. So if this is the source of our salvation, then Chevra, we got to lean into HaKadosh Baruch Hu even more. That's what this called. This is a time to redouble efforts. I know it comes at a strange time, because like it's Pesach, a lot of people are going away, which is beautiful. Go away. Nothing says you should go away for Pesach. But Chevra, I don't know that it's like a Disneyland year. I don't know that it's again, I don't want to offend anyone. But like, I don't know that it's a Disneyland year. I just don't know. It doesn't mean you can't do fun things. You should do fun things. Again, and maybe it is a Disneyland year, but maybe it's Disneyland accompanied with something else. Like, we have to lean into this and recognize V'HaKadosh Baruch Hu Matzil Adam. This is the only source of salvation. We do everything else because a Yid has to put in Ishtadlus, but this is it. This is it. And the more we redouble our efforts of connection, and the more we redouble our efforts of avoda, plus all of the necessary hishtadlus we have to put in, that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu Matzilenu Mi'adam. Bless you. Let me share with you one last piece, then we're going to wrap it up for tonight. So also, if you look at the next page, the beautiful part about this Haggadah is also, he has some beautiful stories in here. First of all, we should make a l'chaim. I know this is very heavy tonight. We should make a l'chaim. We should make a l'chaim, l'chaim. Okay, I will say. So look at the Maisa. Next page. It says
4 sponsors and 2 bottles?
Yeah, by the way, Steve, what's the economics of that? 4 sponsors and 2 bottles?
We're ahead of the game.
Someone's skimming off the top over here. So good. So take a look. Chavra. Come, let's focus in. Lean in. Maktaris l'chasid. So we'll say, look at this Maisa. This is incredible. So he says, "Who Leib Bain?" So we'll say, he quotes the story about this particular chassid of the Piacezna. His name was Leib Bain. Okay, Hay b'meshech shanim Rabos Itunai Chassid Piacezna. He was a journalist. Ultimately, again, a chassid of the Piacezna. The Chaver Masr leMizrachi va'Poel HaMizrachi. So we'll say, it used to be that one could fly many different flags. Ultimately, again, in terms of their affiliations. So this particular chassid, again, he was a chassid of Piacezna. He was involved with Mizrachi. Okay. The Meshech Shanim Rabos, Hayin Etzigim Shal Chasidei Piacezna, Bevad Akila Shal Varsha, Hoya Tipus Ma'anyin Shal Chasid Polani, Vaya Kasher El Harebi Me Piacezna B'choni Me Nafsho. So this guy, this Leibain was a very interesting individual. Again, had many different affiliations, but he was someone who was profoundly connected to the Rebbe. So let's listen to this. Reb Leibel Siperli. So ultimately, again, he says, this guy, Reb Leibel, told the author over here a story. Kipam Nasala Izamakam B'chutzlaretz. One time, Reb Leibel was traveling outside of Poland. V'Rebbe Piacezna bikesh sheyikne lo makteres leishun. The Piacezna asked the chassid to get him, interesting, can you buy me an ashtray? Ashtray, pick me up I heard about the ashtrays in Chutzlaretz, are very nice. Pick me up an ashtray. Okay. Reb Leibel, so what happens? So Reb Leibel goes, he comes back. Reb Leibel shachach liknos makteres. So Reb Leibel forgot. He forgot to buy an ashtray. V'ratz mishachzer habayis. V'rak mishachzer habayis niskar. And he forgot all about it. And only when he got back home did he remember, I forgot to grab his ashtray. So what did he do? Kana efa makteres bechanos bevarsha vehevi ala Rebbe. So what did he do? He's coming back to see the Piacezna. He stopped at like a convenience store. He bought an ashtray. And he says, right, whatever. An ashtray is an ashtray. What is it? He figured the Rebbe needed an ashtray. So what does it matter if I buy the ashtray wherever he was traveling, or if I buy it in Warsaw? So he stops at a store, he buys the ashtray. Kishera haRebbe sheina makteres zu mashabikesh. So the Rebbe saw, I don't know if the Piacezna smoked or didn't smoke, but Lamaisa, the Rebbe saw clearly that this was a Warsaw ashtray or a Piacezna ashtray and not a Chutz La'aretz ashtray. And I will say everything in Chutz La'aretz is nicer, right? And the truth is, I shouldn't use the word Chutz La'aretz by Poland. It's the wrong right? But again, overseas, this is not an overseas ashtray. So the Rebbe saw this. Amar lo, kach. So Amar lo kach. Listen to this. We'll say the Piacezna said to this Chassid of Label, Ma ta choshev. Shani tzarich lematana mimcha. So the Piacezna said to the Label, do you think like I need an ashtray? Right. First of all, haraya, if I need an ashtray, you just bought this at the bodega, right? Whatever the Polish equivalent of a bodega is, right? Right. You just bought this at the bodega down the block. So you think I need an ashtray? Listen to this. Ani ratzisi shetiskar b'shah sha'tanimtza b'chutz la'aretz shehincha chasid sheyesh lecha rebbe v'shetisnahi kechasid. The only thing I wanted is I sent you on a mission to bring me something back, so that when you were outside of the confines of the Chassidic court of Piacezna, you would remember that you're a Chassid, you would remember to act like a Chassid, and you would remember that you have a Rebbe who cares about you. So isn't this incredible? So the Piacezna figured, let me give him a job. If I give him a job, that'll keep him tethered to me. And if he's tethered to me, to a Rebbe who loves him and cares about him, to a Rebbe who helps him to define his Judaic identity, reminds him that he's a chassid, he'll behave like a chassid, he'll continue to dress like a chassid, he'll act like a chassid, and he'll hold himself to a higher level. Avastam matana eino nechutzali. Piacezna says, I don't need a gift. I don't need a gift. Thank you so much. Hopefully you kept the receipt. Right? But lamaisa, I don't need it. So he says, me'osa zman, haya kasher ala rebbe b'chol mimei nafsho, so from this point on, Rav Leibel, who was a devoted chassid from the beginning, really became even more devoted to his Rebbe. And I will say, I was very taken by this story because, I think it ties in, first of all, to V'hisha Amda, and it ties into also what we learned last week. And I will say, if you think about it, the whole entire yisod of mitzvos, right? We'll tie this all together in just a moment. But the entire avoda of mitzvos, why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us so many mitzvos? I will say mitzvos are lahavdil, the ashtray. Mitzvos are the ashtray. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you're going out into the world. You're going out into life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I don't want you to forget about me. I don't want you to forget that you have a God who loves you. I don't want you to forget that you have a God who believes in you. I don't want you to forget in your own personal holiness. I don't want you to forget in your own ability to accomplish. I don't want you to forget that you have the ability to self-actualize. What I'm going to tell you to do mitzvos. I will say mitzvos aren't an ends. Mitzvos are a means to prevent us from forgetting the greatest Rebbe of all, the Ribono Shel Olam, the Rebbe of Rebbes, the Ribono Shel Olam. That's what mitzvos do. The mitzvos, Taryag mitzvos, is the Ribono Shel Olam's ashtray that he gives us to keep us connected. And I will say, when it comes to Pesach, there are so many, if you think about it, by the way, there is no other time of the year where you have so many physical reminders, right? Think about this just a moment. Like Rosh Hashanah you have a shofar, you have the apple and honey, you have the simanim, but it's still not the same as Pesach, right? Think about what you have on Pesach. You have a whole ka'ara, you have a seder plate, right? You have matzos, right? You have maror, you have karpas, you have all these different things. Why, Rabbi? Say, why? Because the Piacezna, I think, would say that the entire avoda of the Leil HaSeder, we'll say, in general, I was speaking on this the other day. I gave a share to a group of women this week, post-college women, and it was interesting. I always like to throw out the question of how do you know if you had a successful Seder? It's a good question to know, right? How do you know if you have a successful Seder? So what would you say? How do you know? Stayed awake, right? That's always answer number one, right? If you are awake, and by the way, I will say, not wrong, not a wrong answer at all, right? If you go out and you make it to the end, good. How else do you know if you had a successful Seder? I'm sorry? Strong maror, good, strong maror, and you're still standing, good? Good, I'm sorry? Shalom at the table. Shalom at the table. Big one, by the way. Everybody still likes each other at the end of the Seder. That I will say that not so pashut. Not so pashut. Right. They go hand in hand, right? People will like you as long as you don't give long divrei Torah. Good. Yes.
Everyone that started it, finished it.
Right. Absolutely. Everyone that started, finish it. Beautiful. Good. What else, Chavra? What else?
can still find the afternoon.
Still find the afikomen, good.
Come away different than when you started.
So let's say, remember again, this in general is an avodah in Yiddishkeit. We learned this, remember also, we learned this in Bnei Machshava Tova. Remember again, the Rebbe said, how do you know if you're an Eved or a Ben? Remember what he said? Right? A Ben is closer, but how do I know where I'm holding? So the Rebbe says, if after you daven, do you feel different? If the answer is no, you're still an Eved. If the answer is yes, then you're a Ben. Then you're a son. So certainly part of the avodah of the Pesach Seder is to go ahead and ultimately to feel different. But I think what our Rebbe, because our Rebbe is the Piacezna, what our Rebbe would say is, how do you know if you've had an effective Seder? We'll say, if you walk away from that experience, feeling closer to the Ribono Shel Olam, if you feel like Kadosh Baruch Hu, I am now more tethered to you after this Seder than I was before, that's a successful Seder. That's the avodah. The avodah is v'hisha amda. If I come out of the Seder and I'm saying the one phrase that is rolling over my lips over and over and over is v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. Even if I find myself in the hands of Esav, even if I find myself in the worst predicament, the Ribono Shel Olam has my back. If you walk away from your Seder and you don't just say it, but you feel that, that's a successful Seder. Shabbos says, ask yourself, so why so many physical parts of the Seder? Seder is such a physical experience. Not like we're reclining, we're drinking, and again, I will say, it's Kedai, by the way, don't use the Rashi light. Come on, man up, let's go, right? I'll say, again, Seder is the time. You can stay away. No joy then. No, you can do that. That's I'll say, no, it's because, no, in all seriousness, by the way, in all seriousness.
You mentioned this throughout the year, you use grape juice, and you use grape juice, but on Pesach, you're specifically supposed to use wine.
There are some people who only remember one thing that I say. Right? It's like 5,000 shiurim, like on the thing. The thing you say every single, but that is true. It is right. But again, I will say, but think about it, right? I'm just without getting caught on the wine right now. I will say, but remember again, there's so many things that we do. Why all the emphasis? Because I will say, remember again, these are the ashtrays. Chassidus Chaburah gives us the wine. Don't forget about me. The matzah, don't forget about me. The maror, don't forget about me. The karpas, the afikomen, the manishtana, the kosher elio, the kittel. There is so much stuff. Why? Because each of those things are the ashtrays that our Rebbe, that Avinu Shabashram gives us, so that we don't forget about it. But don't forget what? That we don't forget that HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzilinu miyadam. To walk away from the Leil HaSeder with one basic yesod, that no matter what is happening in my life as an individual or as a nation, even if the hands of Esav are literally wrapped around my neck, even if it's no longer a proactive salvation because I'm in the midst of such difficulty, the Ribono Shel Olam always comes through. And the avodah of the Leil HaSeder is not just to say it, but to use all of the different pieces, all the different ashtrays, so to speak, lahavdil, in order not just to say it, but Emeretz Hashem, in order to truly believe it. Rabbi will stop over for tonight. Shkoyach everyone. Ma'ariv in the shul. Ma'ariv in the shul. Chavra, just I want to throw something out. I'm going to put it out on the chat. I'm going to put it on the chat because I haven't put out a poll for a while on this chat. Next week, I have a Baruch Hashem, a Simcha conflict, but I really don't want to miss the shir. So I'm going to put out, I'm just giving you coming attractions, if we could do the shir at 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock instead of, or 9, well, maybe we'll do Ma'ariv 9:15, and then the shir afterwards. So this is bigger than Schnitzel. This late, there's got to be something even. Oh, you can put food options.